Welcome back, everyone, to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today, we are very excited to have the author of the delightful middle grade horror, Izzy Hoffman is Not a Witch, and the founder of the really amazing event, Spooktastic Book Fair in Massachusetts, Alyssa Alessi. Welcome back. We have Alyssa Alessi here, who is going to be the most wonderfully unhinged guest she's just promised. So I can't wait to have this conversation. And we just want to say hello.
Hey, I love that you're already introducing me as an unhinged person.
Listen, I didn't say you're an unhinged person. I said yes, it's a totally different thing. But no, our discussions here, while it is about horror and it is about horror, especially like literature, so much goes into what that is that all of our discussions, we've talked about favorite teachers passing away while we were in school. We've talked about so many different things already on this podcast. So wherever it goes is where it's supposed to go. So we're very excited. But first of all, we met obviously at StokerCon this year, and we ended up at midnight in a cemetery in the lovely city of Stamford, Connecticut. And I just wanted to say, is that something that you normally do?
It is absolutely something I normally do. If that is to know me, if you haven't had like
That is
some
to
sort
know
of
me.
drunken adventure with me in a cemetery, like what are we even doing?
And like that was such an awesome experience. We got so many really cool like moments that happened in there. And so I kind of wanted to start with that. So obviously you are not afraid to walk around a haunted graveyard. So tell me your background in horror and spooky things in general. Is that how it's always been for you?
So I grew up in a multi-generational household where I shared a bedroom with my very teen witch of an aunt. She would be like, I'm watching Tales from the Crypt, so you can't look at it. And I'm like, okay. But obviously I could hear all of these like crazy sounds coming from the TV. She was such a horror nerd. And eventually I could crawl up in her bed and watch these things with her. So X-Files, Tales from the Crypt. She was like crazy into all the movies at the time. So Poltergeist, the old school Freddy's, which were like my number one fear. All of that. Did I say the X-Files? That was like her
Oh,
favorite.
yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that's a
So I had no limit. There were no limits to what I could consume in terms of like horror media. As a child, I'm talking like as young as maybe even 3, 4.
And were you okay with that? Did it scare you at that age? Did you like it? Were you intrigued?
Like honestly, like right at this moment, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I knew there was anything else. So yes, I liked it, but it's also pretty much the only thing I watched.
It's like all you knew, so
It's all I
it's
knew.
normal.
I drew the line with The Exorcist. I hated the sounds that came from the TV, but I was totally allowed to watch that. I think where they were like, cover your eyes is like during slashers when like the boobs came out, they'd be like, cover
Yep,
your eyes, can't look at boobs, but like
that was
totally
definitely
watch.
my house. All the violence is fine, but
Yeah, it's so weird. But I did like it. And then I grown to like have some sort of comfort in it. And then being introduced to like the children's side of horror, it just felt
yeah.
so cozy because I was used to people just being like slashed to death. So then when that wasn't the case, I'm like, oh, this is so cute. Like pumpkins and witches flying. This is awesome.
It's like you went up to 10 and then came back down and sort of were reintroduced like at what probably would have been considered more like traditional of what you should have been. It's interesting that that didn't seem boring to you, that you actually found it to be like cozy and almost reassuring.
Yeah, I think my comfort became like the teen media because it was somewhere in the middle. Like I live for Buffy, I still live for Buffy. It's just that was like
Yes.
my biggest influence as a kid, which I think started my whole obsession with cemeteries.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so at one point I lived right behind a cemetery and I grew up in the city, so I lived in this building. There was like a 5-foot cement like passway and then a gate to the graveyard. So outside my bedroom window, I just looked out into the graveyard. And I would go out there at like,
I actually grew up directly next to a cemetery as well.
yay. So I would go out there at night at like 8 o'clock at night and be like, I'm waiting for these vampires. Like, I'm going to kick some ass. Like, I don't know why I was doing that.
My God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I swore to God, like I was the chosen one. I'm like, I'm the chosen one. Like, come get some. Like, I have a stake. Like, we're gonna fight. Yeah.
When everyone else
So
was running away, you were like, come on, let's do this.
yeah, and I think it kind of translates into like I think by the time I got my period, I was not still like trying to slay vampires,
Okay,
but
so this is
I
like you
do
were
to this
young when
day
this was
feel
happening.
ultra on edge. I do want to beat up men when I'm
Yeah.
at my I don't know if that counts, but
You
I'm
know,
still
they're
there.
pretty similar. They're bloodsuckers, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm still there. I'm hella angry. The full moon gets me angry. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, so what age are we talking about that you're sneaking out and going into the cemetery to fight
So I'm
vampires?
talking like 8 years old.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's when like between 8 to 10, I guess, is when Buffy was like really um like at the peak of like the television series.
Yeah.
What was that? Like, I don't know, maybe like 1998 or something like
That's what I
that.
was gonna say. Like late, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
98 to like early 2000.
Yeah, I was born in 88, so I'm like a true millennial.
Okay. Yep, my sister was
Sarah
born
Michelle
that same
Gellar was
year.
just like, oh yeah, 30, 36, right?
Yep. We're
So now the
5 years
reboot, I'm
older than
like,
that.
pumped.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I'm like, don't mess it up now, but
It's so hit or miss with those. I still
it
haven't gone to
is.
see I Know What You Did Last Summer because I'm worried.
Well, that's a
Same.
new one coming out for that.
It's,
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
They were all talking about Jennifer's like MILF body with the curves,
people, yeah, at the premiere.
like I heard nothing but positive
Oh,
things.
really? Yeah, I heard men, of course, were saying negative things because, again, they're waiting for Alyssa to kill them in the cemetery.
Yes, exactly.
And I hate all of that because I'm like, there's so many more interesting things like about this whole reboot than Jennifer's body.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
why are we talking about her body?
Why is it open for commentary to begin with?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, can we talk about how she kept up acting this whole time?
Yes.
Like, let's talk about other
Right.
things other than like
If
sexualizing her
anything, like
body.
comparing her to like Jamie Lee Curtis and the fact that she's revisiting,
Mhm.
the movie that
Yes.
really like made her famous so long ago. I mean, I knew it was Party of Five before that, but this was really what turned her into like a star, like a bankable star, but instead it's that because of course that's our culture.
Exactly.
So when it comes to like the comfort of horror too, like when I think about like when you're saying that was sort of like when you think about your childhood going to sleep, with your aunt, all that kind of stuff, that's kind of what was going on. Do you sort of like, we've talked a lot about people that either just were drawn to it, people that were traumatized by it as a kid, but it almost feels like horror equals family to you in a way that is sort of like tied together. And I think that ties interestingly into the book that we're going to talk about, but I just wanted to see what you had to say about that.
Wow, I've never actually looked at it like that. I've never thought that before, but saying it out loud, I guess it does sound right. There is like a comfort to it. Whereas like other people, I hear a lot like in panels and interviews where people say like, oh, horror is, being scared in a safe place where everything's going to be okay. And for me, I feel like it was very much the opposite growing up, where I felt like real life was scary and things around me were scary. And there was no control over that. Whereas in the movies, a lot of times, like the girl could win. Like you can kick their ass in the end, which is maybe why I was so drawn to Buffy particularly. But those supernatural horrors too, I felt like that was safe. Whereas real life was what was scary.
So interesting, Adam. I feel like you guys are two peas in a pod here because I would say like you always felt that to be such a comfort and could rewatch things and felt like there was a cadence or a recipe to it, not from the girl perspective.
Yeah. So what city, I know you said city, what city did you grow up in?
I was born and raised in Boston, Mass, and I'm still here.
Okay. So I
Poor
was in
Boston,
Washington.
not like Beacon Hill, Boston.
I
Want to
grew up
clarify.
in Washington, D.C., like in the 90s, back when it was quote unquote the murder capital of the country and all that kind of stuff. And it was very much that like the movies, you knew what was going to happen, especially when you got into like slashers and things like that. There were rules, even before Scream, we all knew them and that kind of stuff. Whereas you walk outside and you have no idea what you're going to see or what's going to happen. There's no rules, there's no guidelines that you can follow to keep yourself safe. So it almost was the opposite, where it was so much more comforting to watch, these things. And at the end, the evil thing almost always gets killed, even if it comes back in the next movie. At the end of this one, it's going to get defeated. And you didn't see that outside.
100%. There was a resolution. There was a bad guy. They were catching the bad guy. There was something being done, which in real life wasn't the case.
I would like to study both of you or go into this a little further, later on the psychology of that, because I know when I took some college courses, the one professor, to earn extra money, he would go into bars and he would play the most vicious hockey fights. And it would diffuse the energy in the room to
any kind of aggression or whatever.
Yes. And so, I think most people would think it would cause people to want to fight, but it actually diffused it and kept the bar safer. So I just wonder, now I'm ready to do some research and go down the rabbit hole of why people find comfort in a horror movie like this versus the horrors on the outside. So you'll have to come back once I get those answers. Okay.
Yes. Study us. Let's do it.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know. And obviously, in a city, there's tons of different people and stuff like that. But it was hard to find other horror movie fans living in the city and whatnot. It would be maybe one or two others. But I think that it's interesting, to see that, because maybe there is so much more real life horror that people aren't escaping into it or are looking as much as maybe they are in other places. But again, something that I just noticed, especially growing up, that it was very much, and I know it probably is for most people, but it's why do you watch that shit kind of thing?
It was super taboo, especially in an urban setting. I feel like it was taboo. In high school, I was known as the goth because I wore black. I was hardly goth. I wore black and I did dye my hair red and different colors like that. But I mean, I would have been honored to actually be considered a goth. Are you kidding me? I was just I wear black. I'm not a goth. But there was something odd about seeing the brown girl in all black with dark makeup. And it definitely caused me to stand out a little bit in that way. I was definitely the weird person, which you think there would be more of in the city. There's a lot of people, but no.
Right. That's exactly what I thought. And for me, it was, everyone knew I liked horror movies. But then I was a sophomore, I think, in 1999, and Columbine happened. And then all of a sudden it became everyone was worried about me, my mental health. Was I dangerous? All this kind of stuff. And it was just very interesting. And I'm I didn't particularly dress. I would wear horror movie shirts and stuff like that sometimes. But just knowing that I was interested in that, I think in that urban environment, it became, you are a dangerous person. And so it's very interesting, especially now, as I feel horror in general in the community is far more accepted, to kind of compare it to the way that I was treated 30 years ago or 20 years ago.
I mean, I still thought you were very strange and odd when I met you. In terms of the clothing, I mean, when I first met you, had a Duff beer hat on. So that was very green flag, easy, maybe not Simpsons, a green flag, but
green flag.
I mean, it was not threatening. I mean, you had kind of baggier jeans and Timbs and stuff like that, but that was kind of the style. But your decor in your apartment was alarming. I came from such a rural country, evangelical background that it was such a no-no. So I feel I walked into a house of horrors of oh my God. I mean, it was just plastered. And now to anyone else, they'd be this is sick. You've done a lot of great collecting. And, at some point, years later, our oldest daughter found Adam's little Michael Myers doll.
And when you pressed
she's
its knife,
2.5. Yeah.
It would play the Halloween theme when you pressed it.
And Adam would be oh, that's little Mikey. But it was okay. So it was just, I mean, I think that a lot of it is conditioning to think, what is wrong with these people that they like this or they find comfort? I hope and pray that the stereotype is different. And if both of you feel a bit more relaxed, that's great. But like, I still think within some of these very pocketed, like myopic and provincial communities, the stereotype probably remains the same.
Well, a few things. Like, first, Adam, I'm so sorry because that is like a next level of trauma that you did not ask for. Like, oh no, this white kid's gonna blow up the school now. He's gonna shoot us all or whatever. So that's awful.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that sucks. And then two, you were drawn to him.
Well, on the other hand, I
Coming
was
from
like,
this like
yeah,
small
I
town,
totally
like,
get it.
oh no. That's so interesting that you were like, oh God, all these slasher posters, am I gonna die? I'm like into it. So that's funny that you were into that.
It was
And then third,
a back and forth.
I love that. I love that for you guys. Third, I think that horror is like trending now. And I think, is it trending because, oh, it's cool? Yeah, sure. But also, I think that with the internet, people are able to connect more and really find each other. Whereas before, you were kind of just like
A
that
loner.
weirdo by yourself. Yeah, in your house. Like, why am I into these weird dark things? But now you see how many people are actually into it. So I wonder if there was the same type of worldly connection in the late 90s that we have now. Like, would we have found each other then?
No, and that's part of like for our original first episode that we've recorded, we were saying like part of this discussion was, okay, what has changed? You know, you say the word trending, and I think that's fantastic because it is about accessibility now. And I love, and I think that's why like the whole part of this came from, hold up, am I actually reading horror? Because I thought because I wasn't in the horror section that I wasn't reading horror. And it's like through attending Stoker and hearing these panels and, you know, talking with Adam repeatedly, I was like, wait a minute, like there is an entire spectrum. There's really anything from like the lightest of horror to the heaviest. And I was actually talking to someone in my DMs the other day about an author that is about to publish a book. And he was like, I was scared to even label myself as horror, thinking it wasn't scary enough. And so it's the overall definition of horror that I believe is really changing. So I wanted to get your take on that, like from what it used to be to what it is now. Like, what do you think horror involves? Because I feel like it is accessible and open to so many more people. It's not just occult and, you know, well, yeah. And just like demonic stuff, it's so much more. So what are your thoughts?
I think that even, especially back then, people were connecting horror to this like vindictive thing, like, oh, you just want to see people get hurt and all of these negative demonic things, like you're saying, which I mean, in some cases, yeah, people just want like splatter for no reason, right? Sure, they find comfort in that. I'm not particularly that type of person where I like ultra gore. That's not really me. But there are so many more sides to it. Like you said, you heard at StokerCon or seen at StokerCon, where sometimes I think a lot of it is just the deepest of human feelings coming to the surface. We're all feeling these things. It's the ultra grief, the ultra loss, or
Yes.
just like the heaviest human emotions that we could possibly feel. And then we explore them. Like sometimes it's the worst that could have happened in history, and people want to break that down and explore it. There's a lot of psychology behind it. I don't know if you're finding that in other genres per se, but maybe I'm just saying that because I'm totally into horror. But I feel like horror has the heaviest feelings. And then you just go as deep as you possibly can and explore it.
Well, that's actually like the secondary goal of, or maybe not even secondary, maybe it's primary, is to show that the things you just described, the grief, being imprisoned, you know, whether that's mentally, emotionally, physically, just looking at, you know, aspects of race, class, and the intersection. Yes. Yes. And the intersection of how those things have been like manipulated and abused. Now, I like to read quite a bit outside of the horror genre because that's where my comfort zone or my, like,
Always.
yes. And now I'm coming over into this and I'm reading so many of it and I'm naturally gravitating towards it. And I'm just realizing what a breadth and a depth within just this label. But also, if you think that was scary or that upset you, or you like books like that, my goal is to recommend authors outside of that don't have that label, but give those same sort of feels, or like, well, if you like that and that was messed up, it's like, well, this book is incredibly messed up too.
Yeah, it goes back and forth where it's
yes. And that's the goal, is to just really, I want authors like yourself to have exposure to a different audience than they would have ever been able to collect or identify with, because they are either, put off by the label or wouldn't ever entertain it, but they would love it and enjoy it. Or, at the same time, maybe somebody only reads a particular type of horror and they should be exposed. So that's kind of the goals of all this.
I love that. I love that so much.
It just feels very passionate to me, because I'm like, I mean, through storytelling is the best way that we learn. It's the best way that we remember, that we communicate. And the stories that are being written right now, Adam and I were talking about how, with the technology, you can have independent authors. You can self-publish now. You can go to these different events. Like, reading is such a less solitary activity more than ever. Things like a book talk and going into, a store and seeing these popular books that someone recommended just wasn't like that before. So it's just becoming this much bigger, like, exposure from whether you're the reader or you're the author. And I just feel like we're at the middle of this intersection where we can really capitalize on connecting groups that would have otherwise missed each other.
100%. It seems like romance and horror are kind of not getting married, but they're flirting, they're dating. And I think that it's even kind of like making me kind of come out of my comfort zone. I'm like, oh, could I read a romance? Maybe.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that, because I just read, I don't like to read romance very often, but it's like, I might read like maybe 2 or 3 for the year. And so it's summertime and I wanted to read this book it's out right now, called These Summer Storms. And it's about, the family name is Storms and the father is like a billionaire. And so it takes on kind of like all the things that you would expect a billionaire, being the children of that, what the expectations are, what the lifestyles have been like. I mean, yes, it had a romance aspect to it, like somebody falls in love with somebody and whatever. But let me tell you, I've never read a book that was characterized as a romance novel that was like, and this problem and this problem. And it was like, oh my God, this family is wrecked and screwed up, and the things that have happened. And basically the dad sets them up after he dies at the beginning of the book. And he's like, look, in order for you to get your inheritance, he like writes custom letters to them of all the things they have to do that are specific to each one of them, that are like, it sucks for them terribly, right? For each individual child and the adult. And then if they all don't do it, none of them get the inheritance. And so throughout the book, the more trash and drama that comes out, and kind of just like the family suffering and the things that have happened to these children. Yeah, there was a part where someone falls in love with someone, but like for the most part, like through the very end, it was like, that dad was a real shithead.
It sounds more like an Agatha Christie. And then there were none or something.
But I would have missed it if Abby Jimenez hadn't recommended it. Or I saw that and I was waiting for it. So it's just stuff like that where you're like, well, man, I mean, if you would have put a little bit of a tweak, or you looked at it as a horror, like you could see where it's like, this family has been abused, these children, the life that they've had to live, like it absolutely was horrific.
Yeah.
So it's just surprising to me of how these things get the label.
Well, we're forced to put our stories into a box, right? It's just been that way for so long. You're forced to label it as, no, this is historical fiction. No, this is romance. This is chick lit, whatever.
Yes.
Where the best stories have elements of everything.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the books that, are labeled classics or whatever, it's like, you look at Jane Eyre or Wuthering Heights and these things, it's like, these are horror books, but they also have romance. They also have, these different aspects to it. And it's like, at the time, I'm guessing you didn't go into a bookstore and there was a horror and a romance section. It was just books, right? And now, because, on one hand, because there is so many options, we've talked about this before, that it's art meets business and marketing. Because if it doesn't sell, then you don't get to write another book anymore. Whereas before, it didn't kind of work that way as much.
Yeah, I agree.
So I want to say I read your book. I'd love to get into that for you. So the name of the book is
Izzy Hoffman is Not a Witch. And so
clear your throat.
Sorry.
Okay.
The book is Izzy Hoffman is Not a Witch. So with the not crossed out on the cover. But I want to talk about this because after everything that we talked about beforehand, it gives me even more interesting things to say, because I think on the outside, this is a middle grade, spooky, witchy, fun, empowerment kind of book, but you put a lot
Oh,
of
you
shit
go
into
hard.
it.
I actually, at the end of this book, I was like, Adam, what's this book billed as? I was
Yeah.
like, is this an adult book or is this a child's book?
Because it's scary.
I was like,
it
it is. And I was like, I mean, I could see like some of the transitions were like not, I was like, okay, those made me feel like, and the conversations, like those were more like focused towards younger kids. But then once it got into the shit that Izzy was dealing with, I was like, well, damn, this is an adult book. I mean, you really pack a lot into this novella.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
I
think
felt that way when I was writing it.
And I was scared, like in a good way.
that seance scene will be ingrained.
I
in your
know.
soul.
I know. And I don't normally like to read like the scary things like that, but it was really good. And just, I mean, from the opening scene, Alyssa, you write this thing where this witch basically is coming out of her dreams, and it reminds me of very much like The Ring, that she's crawling towards. And Adam is like, that's his one thing that he's like terrified of just like this long dark hair, this woman, and it's like, and it's coming out, and it starts off with a bang instantly. Like there's no pause, no wait.
She means well. She means well.
She
You
does
don't
though.
know that at first.
Yes. And I love that. I mean, right now you see these books and things like this coming up and saying they didn't hang witches. They killed women.
Yeah.
And I think like your book really speaks to that.
So, I'm from Boston, right? So I grew up going to Salem all the time as a kid. And it was not what it is now. It was not as commercialized. I mean, they still had like, they still had tourists. There was still like Witch City. They still had the picture of a witch and a broom on their cop cars. Like it was still that, but there was like hardly any restaurants out there except for like the few local places. Like it wasn't what it is now. And I think Izzy kind of shows some of that. Like, oh, I'm so annoyed with this like commercialization of my place. I'm like,
I love it. She's skipping the line because she's like, oh, I heard this is going on. And people are like, oh shit, I'm going to go get this. And it's
yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, she had like her little towny tricks. Like, I'm from here. I think this will get the tourists out of here. But I did. I grew up going out there. I grew up trick-or-treating out there on Halloween. And I kind of watched this whole like evolution of Salem, right? Where it just kind of was this small town that had this dark history attached to it. Then it became this like ultra commercialized place where everyone's just like really trying to make a buck on it. And now it's kind of coming full circle where they're like, wait, like this is what happened here. These are the women that were, and men in some cases, that were murdered at the time. Because of what? I mean, there's so many stories as to why that went down, but I think some of it was just a lot of like control. It was just so chaotic, and just as you can tell from the story, I feel like a lot of it was men trying to have a sense of control. That still happens today, obviously, but I think it's much better now where we got to this point where, yes, is it hella commercialized? Yeah. But at least we're saying their names. We're saying the victims' names. Like these were people. These were regular people. They weren't even practicing witchcraft. I mean, there's that whole draw to it where like, oh, the Salem witches. They weren't even witches. They were just people.
Yeah.
That might have been doing something a little odd, or just maybe pissed off the wrong person, or had land
or were
that
independent,
wanted.
Yep.
Sometimes it was just they had land that the government wanted. We're like, we fucking want this land. This is how we're going to get it. And that breaks my heart still to this day.
So was that kind of like the basis, the foundation upon which you wanted to write? Like the story was to recognize these things and sort of build that into like a story that kids would be reading so that they can kind of, because a lot of kids do go to Salem, and a lot of kids are watching Hocus Pocus, in the second one now. And was this kind of your way to be like, yes, that stuff's fun, but here's some reality along with that?
Yeah. And I mean, it's the horrors of the real world mixed in with like the paranormal elements to it, right? But it still shows that we can still take control of ourselves in our narrative, and it's okay you don't have to do it alone. I really liked that they had this like community, this accidental community of women being like, no, like we're not letting it go down like this.
Uh-huh.
And you can still do that.
So I know you said you don't too often read outside of your genre. 2 books that I know that you read, because I asked you to, is Wayward by
Amelia Hart.
and The Book of Witching.
Oh, yes. CJ, but there's so many CJs.
Yeah, I know. But both of those are focused around like the concepts of witch. And I think you would really love Wayward because it's 3 generations of women that have basically been accused or sought after and, just the amount of persecution that they've received. And it's a level of everyone that I know that has read that book is like rocked, but it is particularly around this time in this political climate as it pertains to pregnancy. A lot of the book focuses on
being forced
sexually like raped and it being a woman's fault and being pregnant and miscarrying. And I mean, there's a lot around, why we went to a woman for like the apothecary and needs for that. And just, being stalked. There's a lot of women's issues within there within the context of, being harangued as a witch. And then the Book of Witching. I mean, I think, do you want to share about that one? No.
No, you're doing a good job.
Okay, sorry.
You remember it a lot better than I do.
The Book of Witching is really like they have this. She's just immediately persecuted. I mean, she's thrown in jail, like
that's how
because somebody like the way you just said that someone wanted the land. It's like, well, they needed to blame a particular government type situation on someone, and so they pretty much pin her up against that and throw her in and say the witch did it. That the political adversary didn't actually end up killing his enemy, it was the witch. And she's got a family and kids and they're scouring her body for the signs of a witch. And they can find a freaking mole on the body. And that's the mark right there. I mean, to the point that if you have something under your tongue that, they'll look for anything to accuse, and the level of torture that they would do to get her to confess that she was a witch. And I have to imagine those things aren't just like completely fictional. I think that there's
all that's true.
A lot of that is
that's all historically
torture.
Recorded. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just very like the treatment, the disbelief, and the way that these women were just, at fault for being a female.
Mm-hmm.
It really energized me in a way that I have never been energized before, to be like, how does society blame women for, having a vagina and like essentially existing, and like they're either manipulative, they're hiding things, it's their fault that they got pregnant, all these different, it's
their fault if they don't get pregnant.
Exactly. If you don't have the male heir. I mean, it's just, and I didn't bring up the book. Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them that I could recommend. And that's kind of the goal here, is to have some additional books to go with this if we want to, but it's a level of disrespect that these authors, the Frozen River was the other one I was going to say, that they've just were able to bring out and show of just like the accusations and how women couldn't even speak up for themselves in court.
Unless their husband was present.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it gets
and oftentimes it was the husband that you were wanting to report something against.
Makes me want to go out to a cemetery and kick some ass, but except not the cemetery. It's just, it brings out outrage and injustice.
I will check out Wayward or the Book of the Witching. Which one do you think?
I mean, I think that
I would go for Wayward.
They're both up your alley.
Yeah, I would definitely
They
start
both
with
sound
Wayward.
up my alley.
Yeah.
Wayward's going to piss you off real fast.
Yeah.
Have you read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix?
Oh, yes.
I love that book. And you said you did read that one?
I did.
Yes, I did. We all did then.
Yes.
We all did.
I felt like that was another book that I was like, that really generated this discussion of surprised that that's a horror book. It has horrific moments and it has a little
bit of
that
it's in the horror genre.
Yes, exactly.
Because it is horrific as hell.
But it really speaks to the terrible, terrible things that were happening to teenage women, and they're still happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I think to bring it back to Izzy in sort of what these things do, there's such an interesting, and I think it still is perfect for middle grade readers, but this idea of generational trauma that plays into Izzy and her experience, and obviously her mother and this witch that she's seeing in her bedroom at night and things like that. It's like, is that something that you researched? Is that something that because you were going back to sort of the Salem witch trials you knew was going to be part of the book. How did you sort of come about that whole sort of idea of putting that into the book?
I'm not even sure, to be honest. I know that there's always this part of me that goes out looking for scary things, right? I go out looking for ghosts. I go out trying to like communicate with this like other side that I'm not even sure is there, right? I'm just like hopeful for something, I guess.
Yeah.
There's always that part that's like, okay, but anytime something actually does kind of seem too real, I'm terrified. So I always thought of like, what if I was extremely close with my grandmother? If I saw her ghost, I would shit my pants. I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, Nana, what's up? No, I'd be terrified. But there is like a comfort in thinking that there is this other side and that your ancestors are watching over you. I try to incorporate ancestral magic whenever I am doing my own type of like moon spells and such. And I hope that I'm connecting with them and they mean well. But at the same time, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So it was just like a realness to it, I think, at that point, where even as a kid, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I want to see a ghost, but that's fucking terrifying, even if they are my ancestor.
It is that push and pull sort of thing. And I think
Yeah.
that that's perfect for a book that is, for kids, because I think life in general kind of has that feeling to them. And so to put that into a book like that is great. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is Izzy's father. And, without going into like too much explanation for people that have not read the book, he is sort of a bystander because of something that is purposefully done, and I think I found that to be such an interesting thing. And really, like, this sort of, when you talk about like, different spells that you might do and things like that, this sort of like your intentions are good, but what happens might not be for the best for everyone. And that is like it's a really good lesson to learn as a kid, and like to see an adult making those kinds of mistakes was really fascinating.
I'm not sure if kids will catch that, but thank you for catching that.
Well, it kind of turns that, because your parents are supposed to be safe and protect you, right? Like, and I think that, that's one of those things. I don't know if you've read Paul Tremblay's his middle grade book that just came out, does a similar thing.
My daughter is on chapter 7. I haven't read it yet,
Oh,
but we
okay.
just got it the other day.
It's so good. But I think you guys do the same thing, which is ultimately the scariest thing is, what if your parents are not, whether purposely or not, are not protecting you from something? And I think that, ultimately in this, because he does not know what is happening, that she goes to her father for protection, and he's like, oh, let's eat some cookies, everything's fine. It's like, no, it's not, and it's so like that feeling as a kid. I think we've all had that, where it's like, Mom, Dad, this is going on. They're like, oh, you're good. And I think that that really gets to the base fear of what it's like to be, especially as you're 8, 9, 10, and sort of becoming your own person. Was that intentional?
Was that intentional?
Yeah, to put that in the book, like,
Yeah,
as being something,
100%.
Scary. Yeah.
100%, because that is scary and it's terrifying, and that there's a reason why that's always the case in these books, right? Because that's what happens. That's real. The parents like, what are you talking about? Like, you're good. Anyway, we have a picnic planned, so let's go. And you're like, what? But
Yeah.
there's something in my room. And they're like, yeah, it's fine.
And I think that what you do differently here that's so cool is that, like, she goes to Dad and it's like that, and then she goes to Mom, and Mom's like, yeah, there might be something to that.
Well, shit.
Whale shit.
Yeah, that was important for me to have the mom believe you, because on a personal level, I grew up in a very chaotic environment, a very unsafe environment where even my mother was unmedicated and had manic bipolar disorder. It was intense, but I would say one thing is she would always believe me. She would always believe me. And I don't see that in middle grade books. Like, you have to read in your genre, right? I do read middle grade. I don't usually see parents believing the kids and helping them. Even though in this case it was partially the mom's fault. But
Yeah.
I don't usually see them seeking help and receiving it from adults.
Yeah, I think that is a really great thing to put in, because ultimately we want kids to be independent. I think that's probably why, generally speaking, it's not in there as much, but also to understand that when you need help, you should have trusted people that you can go to as well is a great lesson.
Yeah, I don't think that's usually the lesson, but and I wasn't trying to have this like preachy book with all of these
It
lessons.
doesn't feel that way
I
at
was just
all. I'm not saying
hoping
that. Yeah.
that some of these things, or at least one of these things, would come through somehow. But it was important for me to have those safe adults, to have the tarot reader, to have her mom, and to be like, hey, like we're gonna do this together. But the mom did believe her. I think she denied it at some point and was like, no,
Uh-huh.
what are you talking about?
She was trying to protect,
She was
Izzy.
trying
Like, if
so
I
hard
just
to
ignore
protect
it,
her,
it'll be fine.
keep the
Yeah.
past in the past, and it didn't work. She was like, okay, this is a little crazy. It looks like I have to actually handle it.
Yeah. Um, you said before also that, your intention as you wrote this book was to sort of catch and, bring in those reluctant readers. Can you tell me, like you said, your daughter's reading another right now? Was that as a parent, what were you noticing that made you think I need to fill this space and try to write something myself that kind of does that?
As a parent, I noticed, not just with my children, just with their peers and just children around me, that the attention span is just so much shorter. Really, even with adults. I mean, like we're on our phones, like we want information right now, but it has to be like, 60 seconds to get it to us, or that's it. Like I can't stay focused. We're just in this like consumption era, right? Where it's like flash in your face, here, buy this, it's gone. Like everything's just so quick and so visual that it seems like kids maybe will read a graphic novel, which I think is great. Like if you want to read a graphic novel, hell yeah, read that graphic novel. But even graphic novels, they just don't have the attention span anymore, which is like so sad. I'm the same way. I don't have this like super zoned in attention span. I can read like a novella, I can read short story collections, but if there's like a 500-page book in front of me, I might come back to it like 5 times.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think that's why I
definitely
liked your book so much, is because it pulled, it started right away. Like you get right into it with the fun.
I
Um,
tried so hard
and
to be
yeah, and
like
I feel like
the
when you're talking about these
ultimate
shorter
idol.
attention spans, it's like you're immediately piqued, intrigued, you're scared, and like within like, I don't know, the first maybe 10 pages, like someone might give up. And just like with the short attention span, and I really want to test Annabelle on this, like to see if she just like goes, and our youngest daughter, because I find like she loves to buy books, she loves to collect books, she loves to say she's reading a book,
But
but
when it
My
comes down to
soul
actually
sister.
doing it,
yeah,
My
but it's
soul
really
sister.
hard for her. And it is, it's because it was saying to her, I was like, you have to practice every day, to just train your brain to be able to kind of get into it. But I feel like with a book like this, like she would actually complete it.
Just one chapter at a time. That's like how I have to take it. So that would be my suggestion. Just one chapter at a time. You don't have to sit down and read this whole book right now. Just read one chapter, read a couple
Yep.
pages.
Yep.
I tried to make something happen every chapter. I tried to just like completely skip that boring middle that would make up like the additional 20,000 words that the book could be. It's just like completely skipped over, and there's just like something happening every chapter.
Yeah, I was happy for that, because I just was like, okay, like it was just like it's the meat that you want the entire time.
well, that's interesting that, obviously as an adult reading it, feeling the same way as, maybe the intended, age range that you would predictably think for this book. As you said with the attention span, it's so funny even like thinking about YouTube, whereas like these kids would watch these like 20 to 30-minute videos of kids playing with toys or opening
Oh
things.
my
And
gosh.
now it's YouTube shorts. And like, if they don't get you within 3 seconds, with YouTube shorts, the kids like it's on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. So,
I mean,
um,
everything's TLDR, too long didn't read. Just for
so,
even communications is what I mean.
so I love that you brought that sort of,
Energy.
well, understanding of kids and readers in general and of yourself and the people that you see and applying that to the actual writing. I love that you're like, this middle 20,000 words or whatever it is, how much of this really needs to be here and how much can I change that to include action? Because we think about like television series and things that kids are watching, it's the cliffhanger, right? In sort of every chapter having that kind of thing to keep them moving on. I think it worked for me as an adult. I can only imagine it's working for kids that are reading it too.
R.L. Stein is great at that. I mean, he would leave half the end of his books as cliffhangers, but
No, yeah. I think of Fear Street where it would be like, and we walked in and I couldn't believe what I see. And then the next chapter is their bed wasn't made.
Exactly.
So you don't cheat like that though. So I appreciate that.
It's a great way to put that. She doesn't cheat.
So I wanted to say, I think I remember you saying Spooktastic kind of started as a launch party for Izzy. Is that correct?
It's 100% correct. Spooktastic started as the Izzy's book launch, and it was held in a field on the lawn of a 1600s art school that still operates today
What?
in my neighborhood.
That's amazing.
Yep, right next to a cemetery. Actually, it's a graveyard. It's connected to a church.
Yes.
From the early 1700s. So
How
the
cool is
vibes
that?
were there.
Yes.
The vibes were there. It was a lot smaller. There was about 20 authors, one art vendor, a vintage clothing vendor, and a beer garden. And we had so much fun. And I wouldn't have even considered doing it again if it wasn't for the positive praise from the authors that were there. They were like, if you do this again next year, count me in. And I was like, what? Next year? And then my brain started kind of churning and I started planning immediately. And now I'm on track for each Spooktastic taking about 8 months to plan.
That's amazing.
And what will this year be?
So this year will be just as chaotic as last year. We'll
And
be at the
what number is
Framingham.
this one?
This will be the third. The
Third,
third
okay.
annual Spooktastic, yep.
And you just keep adding huge names to this thing too.
Yeah, not on purpose. It's really not on purpose. The whole point of Spooktastic is to get everybody included. I want everyone's voice, not just the big names. That's not the point of this. Like, oh, come see this New York Times best-selling author. It's like I want everyone to have a voice. That's kind of the point. Like everyone has a seat at the table. I want diversity in every way. And to get horror in people's hands from people that might say, hold up, am I a horror reader?
Yeah, there you go.
Let me get in there. Let me find out.
So tell us some details for anyone that's listening that doesn't know. When is it? Where is it? All of that kind of stuff.
So the third annual Spooktastic is taking place at the Framingham Public Library in Massachusetts. It's a 3-level library. It's going to have over 60 horror authors, about 5 to 7 publishers, around 15 spooky vendors, a
I saw
beer
that list, wasn't
garden.
it today or yesterday that came out? That looked so good.
Yay, thank you. A beer garden and food. And there'll be all day signings, all day panel discussions. This is all free. Obviously, you have to purchase books if you don't already have them, but it's free to just show up and just meet your favorite authors. There's kids programming. Ira Marks, this is actually not announced yet, but Ira Marks, the graphic novelist, are you familiar with him?
Yes, we got a scoop here. Okay.
He does Spirit Week and Shark Summer.
Yes.
It's awesome. So he will be there again this year doing an all-day continuous mask making workshop.
It's cool.
Yes.
This sounds
Again,
incredible.
Free to the public, free for your kids to just stop in and make a spooky mask.
Well, we're going to be there.
Yep.
We're taking the trip. We're driving up.
Yep. We'll have our, I guess she'll still be 12. Yeah. She'll be 12. And we'll also have, we usually host a foreign exchange student. So we'll be bringing our student from Rome.
Whoa.
She'll be 17.
They don't have anything like this in Europe.
No.
Like there's no Halloween. Like there's like it'll be such a cultural experience for her.
Oh my God, I'm so honored. We get to kind of introduce Halloween in America, Halloween in New England.
Yes, you do.
To the student. I love that. It's kind of known as the kickoff to spooky season.
I love it.
Well, so that's perfect.
We're ready. But yeah, I mean, I just, once I do some more research, we'll have you back on and we can discuss about this, the
inner.
I think that's really fascinating, truly. And I hope that you do give Wayward a chance and even the Book of Witching. And I feel like I can't wait to see you in person at Spooktastic.
Yeah.
Yay. I can't wait to see you.
Definitely. And just the last thing, I am so excited for is it all together 3 separate books? How is this working for your, what is it, Summer of 98 kind of anthology
Are you
thing?
talking about the Triptych of Terror?
Yes.
Triptych of Terror.
Triptych I love it.
Summer 1998, such a time, such a vibe.
What a great summer that was.
I was 10, but I mean, I was doing all the horror things as I already told you. So it was
Yes.
still a vibe. It was
98,
still a
let's
vibe.
see, we had Scream 1 and 2 already. I Know What You Did Last Summer would have been coming out on video probably.
Disturbing Behavior, which is one of my
Yes.
favorite, and The
Love Disturbing
Faculty with
Behavior.
Josh Hartnett, can't forget that, and I think Halloween H2O might have came out in that same year, so it was, like,
That
really a good
summer, yeah, that was all yep, August. I
really a
remember
good
that
year.
distinctly. I had to sneak into that because I was not old enough, so we bought tickets for whatever big blockbuster and snuck into Halloween H2O like 3
Oh
times.
my gosh. So Robert Ottone and Monique Asher are two other authors that I adore so much. Their writing
Yes.
and just them as people, they're amazing, they're funny,
Absolutely.
they're supportive, they're awesome, they're talented. They don't know I'm saying this, they're not paying me or anything, but we
Well,
are.
Mo's on Monday, so we'll see if she says the same thing about you.
It's okay if she doesn't. I'm totally a fan of her. So I get to fangirl and work beside them, which is awesome. So we're gonna collaborate.
Amazing.
We're gonna do 3 separate novelettes in a one book, all taking place one chaotic summer night in 1998.
I
So
am so down for this. You don't even know.
we're coming from different places. We're coming from different point of views. We have almost no idea what each other's even doing. Just have like that general sense that one will be like a slasher, one's going to be more of like a cryptid in the woods, and I'm coming in with aliens because, like I
Yes.
said, the faculty
That
was
sounds
like,
awesome.
yeah, so it
Love
should be
that.
good, and that would be from So Below Books in 2026.
And okay, so be on the lookout for that too. Maybe we can try and talk to you guys when that's coming out, but I am so
Be
excited
on
for
the
that.
lookout.
So excited for
I'm sorry that
Spooktastic. Yep.
you're gonna be bombarded with like the cheesiest of marketing because Rob Ottone has so many ideas up his sleeve for
I
us.
love it.
Stay tuned for that.
Please.
He's awesome. I love him.
And I love
Speaking of
marketing all things.
unhinged,
So
Where can we find you?
where can we find you socials? Obviously Spooktastic as well online. Where can people look you up and see what you're doing?
yep. So Spooktastic Book Fair is the @ for Instagram. There's no website or anything like that. The library does put stuff up on their website, but Spooktastic is a moving thing. It won't always happen at the library. So the best way to stay informed is to follow the Instagram. And then I'm also on Instagram as Pages in the Graveyard. And I'm also on TikTok as Pages in the Graveyard. But I don't use TikTok that much. I'm kind of like at a weird age where I don't really get it.
Yeah, I understand that too. I tried it for a while and I'm just like, no.
No, I love it. I do love watching it. I don't like to necessarily create for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes way too much energy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But everyone out there listening, Izzy Hoffman is Not a Witch is a fantastic book. It does not matter how old you are going to love it. I promise you. I am going to, as we've talked about a little bit, I'm starting a little book club for middle grade. I teach 5th grade, so kind of a 4th to 6th grade book club. And that will be our first book that we are reading together. So you'll be hearing a
Yeah.
lot more from me about what they are saying and thinking. And then they're going to be writing their own witchy stories to go along with it.
I
So
love
yes, yes.
Thank you
So
so
very
much for
excited.
that.
Of
I'm so
course.
excited to hear what they have to say, and I'm so excited to hear some of their stories.
Yes, it's going to be so much fun. So again, definitely check it out. It's just a perfect Halloween read. And as you can tell, I got a lot more out of it than you would expect, and it's all in there for you too. So we just want to thank you again. This was so much fun and look forward to talking again soon.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Alyssa. Bye.
Bye.